Impatience kills, or at least it killed me in Terra Randoma over and over again. Terra Randoma plays in a deceptively simple way that flows so fast it's easy to forget that it's a turn-based roguelike game. That is, until I'm suddenly looking at the game over screen because I just had to push further into that dungeon. The core of the game is simple. You make a move and time passes. Hours if you're in the overworld, less if you're in battle. This generally means that you take a turn and then your enemies take a turn, but your speed can sometimes grant you an extra turn, so to speak. In Terra Randoma, you explore a procedurally generated world, visit towns, take on quests, brew potions, and cook food as you navigate the world attempting to do something. I can't actually remember what it was I was supposed to be doing, mainly because I died a lot, and my Hall of Legends is filled to the brim with my failures. Despite me lamenting my failures, those failures stem from Terra Randoma specifically allowing me to fail the way I chose. There's a variety of difficulty settings in Terra Randoma, but that statement isn't doing true justice to the plethora of choices you actually have. While it does have your standard, easy, normal, and hard modes, you also choose other variables that affect your experience. For example, the layout of the map drastically affects the difficulty as sailing isn't cheap and bigger maps mean longer journeys, which means more food and rest will be needed. Beyond that, you always choose how the game handles failure. You can choose to have no real penalty upon death, some penalties, or go straight to Ironman mode where it deletes your character upon death. I exclusively played with Ironman mode simply because that's how I prefer to play these types of games. You, however, don't have to do that, as Terra Randoma gives you plenty of choices about how to play the game, and that's fantastic. It's also really important to me that these difficulty dials don't only go lower, but higher as well, something games these days tend to put on the cutting board. You pick a starting class and astrological sign, but your character's development is up to you. Be a headstrong, axe-wielding pile of muscles, a bookworm that calls down death from the sky, a sneaky sneak with a silver tongue, or any combination thereof. Every playstyle feels different, although no matter what I played, I often felt like the world's worst Witcher. That's because there are a few key principles to actually doing well in Terra Randoma: patience and prep. If there's a dungeon, it pays to be prepared. Stock up on a variety of potions and elixirs, be fully rested, have plenty of food packed, and your gear in tip-top shape. Once you're actually down in the muck, you should most certainly not just click the mouse, making your little figure bump uglies with the other uglies until one of you dies. The number of times I did that is embarrassing, as my impatience often got the best of me. I would say, I totally got this, when I did not, in fact, have it. The game is upfront with all of its information, and you have to pay attention to the enemy types and what sorts of abilities they're packing, and act accordingly. Funnel them into choke points, pick your targets, and sometimes flee to survive another day, even if you lose some reputation with the various towns. You can't make a name for yourself if you're dead. Just ask all the heroes I already lost. Oh wait, you can't, because they're dead. The combat is pretty clever. You have basic melee and range attacks that you perform just by clicking, but you also obtain talent stones that make up special abilities and spells. Talents have a cooldown and consume stamina. If you're low on stamina, you get hungry faster, and if it gets too low, your speed drops, which means enemies get extra turns for every turn you take. Assuming no enemies are around, you can just wait a while to regain some stamina, but stamina potions are going to be your best friend here, allowing you to fight and use talents without relying on the passage of time. You have to carefully manage your health, stamina, hunger, and resources to succeed, and that pre-dungeon prep definitely makes it more satisfying when you manage to do well. Terra Randoma is interesting because it offers a fairly simple framework, but your playstyle alters how you interact with it. On paper, you're really just moving from town to quest location and back again, but it's the choices you make and how you built your character that matters. For example, no matter what type of character you play, you're going to need food and potions. If you play a character with cooking and alchemical skills, you can be somewhat self-sufficient, especially if you also have points in the wilderness skill. At the same time, you might be lacking in other important areas. If you don't have those skills, you are probably stronger in some respects, but have to pony up gold for potions and food. Perhaps you stick around an alchemist tower and deliver ingredients to them for the extra cash since you're not using them anyway. If you have speechcraft, you can get better rewards and talk your way out of certain situations, but thievery lets you steal and get scouting advantages. You can be a heavily armored tank of a warrior, or a wise sage who reads books before selling them to the library. If you have the right skills, you can fish for food, mine ore for weapon upgrades, forage for supplies, and more. And if you don't, you have to improvise with what you do have to make up the difference, and that's pretty neat. Your skills, attributes, and equipment affect all of your statistics, but your talents aren't gated by any of them. You can walk around as a big dumb warrior with a big hammer and still use the poison arrow and frost cone talents, for example. They're just more or less effective based on your character. I really do enjoy the flexibility present in Terra Randoma. You choose your quests, what towns to gain reputation in, when to chase down treasures from the lore you've spent, and how you react to the myriad of random choices and events you come across. An open-world roguelike is a pretty cool idea, and Terra Randoma uses it really well. Terra Randoma is a great little roguelike with a bunch of replay value that makes it more than worth its meager asking price. It's not as deep as many other roguelikes out there, but it's also nowhere near as complicated, and offers you a wide variety of ways to play with its character building and difficulty settings. If you enjoy permadeath like I do, it's there, and if you don't have to play with it. Its lightweight survival elements mesh really well into the resource management nature of its combat, and its open world makes for an interesting sandbox of possibilities, as you choose where to go, what to do, and why. Terra Randoma is a pick-up-and-play roguelike, which is in itself a pretty rare thing, yet it still offers plenty to think about, and several dials you can turn to choose just how hard you want to think in any given run. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. It definitely helps me out a great deal. I've also left links in the description below, including my website, where you can find the bulk of my written content, but also to my Ko-fi, Patreon, and more. But in any case, thanks for watching, and until next time.